More often than not, when you play through 3 houses, you probably stick with the same squad for the entire playthrough. You will grow attached to this party and enjoy watching them become stronger over time. However, I would argue that this is a limiting way to play Fire Emblem. So if you find that you are struggling through maddening mode, stick around for some party building tips. Every unit on the map doesn't need to be able to kill enemies in one round. Many will grind, making every unit a powerhouse, and I've seen a few people propose that this is a necessity for maddening mode. So let's talk about why this isn't necessarily the case. There are plenty of useful jobs for units to do to support other more powerful damage dealing units. Things like rallies, dancing, white magic, long range dark magic, and other things of the sort can all be very useful. Characters like Annette, Ingrid, Ignatz, and Raphael, and many others, Hanneman, who all struggle statistically at times if you get unlucky, or even really just compared to other units in many cases, all have really useful rallies, especially Annette, who learns rally strength from the very beginning with her personal skill Perseverance. I think she learns rally res, rally speed, all sorts of really good rallies, and she can be a great unit to buff your strong characters. Ingrid, rally magic really quickly. Ignatz, rally speed really quickly. Raphael, rally strength really quickly. All these can be really useful for your entire playthrough, and even all the way into the end game, where 1 point of speed or 2 points of magic or whatever else can make the difference in the end. Next, we have dancing. Any unit can make a good dancer, and their stats become irrelevant. The purpose of the dancer class isn't to have a high damage dealing unit or to have someone who's going to be seeing a lot of combat. It's to have a unit that allows other units to move again, right? So, for instance, say you have Lysithea, who is a magic nuke. You know, she's a huge glass cannon. She kills things in one hit, or doubles things she doesn't kill in one hit, and she's super powerful and strong, right? So a dancer allows her to kill 2 things on player phase, or attack twice, you know? So a dancer doesn't need to see combat, and honestly probably shouldn't see combat, unless you're going for some like high evasion builds that people are really into, and other gimmicky things. But just in general, anyone can be a good dancer, so as long as they have the requisite charm to win the competition thing. Next, let's talk about long-range magic. Long-range magic as in meteor and bolting, which you get from characters like Dorothea, and I'm pretty sure Hanneman learns one of them. Super useful things to be able to deal damage from long range and not be in fear of a counterattack. Always useful and something to consider, especially even if like someone like Dorothea maybe didn't turn out very good. That's still some useful chip damage that you can use, especially if you get her to Warlock or Grimoire, where she can have even more uses of those long-range weapons. And now I want to talk about support gambits, such as Impregnable Wall, Blessing, and Dance of the Goddess. These amazing support gambits can be used by units who aren't going to be dealing a lot of damage. And even ones like Dance of the Goddess, which is an A-rank battalion from the Blue Lion Dancers. You don't need, like, you can have someone who's basically dedicated to having a high authority ranking to use Dance of the Goddess. Someone like Annette, who maybe is already a rally bot for you, so you raised her authority to get all of her different rally skills, raised it to A, now she can use Dance of the Goddess, now she has 2 things she can do on any given turn. So that's something to consider as well, and I personally love Impregnable Wall. Anyone who's watched my playthroughs on stream knows that is probably one of my favorite skills. It saved me more often than not, and Blessing is really clutch too. And again, these can be used by units who aren't necessarily dealing a lot of damage, or maybe you think they're falling behind, and makes them extremely useful and extremely important to your game plan. My favorite people to use stuff like Impregnable Wall and Blessing and Dance of the Goddess actually are people who are good for dealing good chip damage, but not necessarily good for killing units. So I don't usually rely on them to kill enemies. So I'm able to use Impregnable Wall for a turn, and it doesn't make them, it doesn't hurt me at all to not have their damage output that turn, if that makes sense. Now, having a few heavy damage dealing units is all you really need. The rest of your units should be able to deal safe and reliable chip damage while also filling their roles like the ones already stated. So now let's go over an example of my playthrough of Golden Deer on Maddening with no New Game Plus. And here I will be showing the final chapter of Golden Deer. So if you don't want to be spoiled on that, I'm sorry. I guess you can dip out or maybe just not look at the screen because I will be explaining everything that I'm showing. So here's an example of my team composition. For Golden Deer Maddening, no New Game Plus by the end. So my heavy damage dealers, those that I relied to kill people in one turn, were Lysithea, who was killed everything with high defense because her magic was so good, and Leone, who between the Brave Bow or the Bow of Zotan or even I gave her Fail Not for a while, she was able to take down most enemies in one turn. But in the cases where they weren't able to, or these other units could combine for a kill sometimes, I have safe chippers, people who did chip damage from a distance or up close depending on the enemy, and did enough to be significant. And honestly, if I needed to, I could combine 2 or 3 of them, sometimes even 4 of them for a kill. And those were Byleth, Claude, Marianne, Felix, and Sedith. And pretty much everyone else could do chip damage if I really needed them to. I mean, it wasn't as significant as those 5 characters, but that's kind of the way I went, and it worked really well for me. Healers, I had Marianne and Mercedes were my main healers. Marianne, she had Physic. Mercedes also has Physic, but also she had Fortify, which was really clutch in a few moments. And honestly, like Flame and Manuela were there for kind of healing. They don't have Physic, which is, it's a big downfall. But Flame did have Fortify, which was clutch a couple times as well. And also just heal up close works well. And Lysithea, I could heal with her if absolutely necessary, but that felt like a waste of a turn for me on her. Next we have movement spells. Characters that I use for movement spells, such as Warp and Rescue. I had Manuela on the map for Warp if I needed to warp someone anywhere. And Flane for Rescue, which actually got, I think I saved Marianne out of a really dicey situation at one point with Flane on the final chapter, which was really cool. Rescue and Warp were really clutch. And again, Lysithea has Warp, and she's my best Warper, but she's also my best damage dealer. I only used Warp with her if it was absolutely necessary. Next, we have our rally bots, or people who used rallies. Honestly, my team was kind of lacking in rallies. I accidentally killed a few units early on that have really good rallies, like Ignatz and Raphael. But for here we have Ingrid, who has rally magic, which I used on Lysithea for more damage to deal. Or actually once I think I even used it on Flame to have a bigger rescue range. Just little things like that. She was super useful, Ingrid, as a magic rally bot. And then Manuela for rally charm. Rally charm is really important. It gives +8 charm to the unit you use it on, which is a huge swing and shift, and allows your gambits to hit more reliably and deal a significant amount of more damage. So rally charm was really clutch in a few moments as well. And then we have support gambits, where I had Felix, who had Stride, Claude with Impregnable Wall, and Marianne with Blessing. All 3 of those units I used for dealing decent chip damage or healing or whatever else, but they also had turns where I didn't need their chip damage, where Stride was useful. I had plenty of turns where I didn't need Claude to deal damage and use Impregnable Wall instead to bait or lure in some really tough enemies, but not take very much damage in return. And Marianne, kind of a similar thing, where when I didn't need her to heal or use a attack magic, Blessing I used for the final boss of the game, and I used in other moments throughout the game as well. It was really clutch and really useful. And finally, Dancer, Hilda. Everyone's like, why'd you make Hilda a dancer? Well, I made Hilda a dancer because she was not a very good unit at the start. She was falling behind, so I decided, you know what? We'll just make her a dancer. So as you probably noticed, most units fit into more than one role. This is done on purpose. My main damage dealers should be attacking every turn, but everyone else has multiple responsibilities, so they have something to do every turn to help the party progress. Honestly, I hope that this helps some of you who are struggling or that think grinding is the only way to beat maddening difficulty. I personally find this way of playing through Fire Emblem much more enjoyable and interesting than having a team of overpowered characters, but hey, that's just me. Well, thanks for watching, friends. Make sure to comment your thoughts. How do you build your team? Also, make sure to leave your questions as well. And as always, like and subscribe for more Fire Emblem discussion, and I'll catch you guys next time.